how to get a deal before ever having a lead gen set up. Now, I want to put a big asterisk by this. I believe many of us, and this kind of goes to that whole idea of a problem of funding your business monetarily, money. I think a lot of us struggle with this idea of selling something before it exists. I think people, especially if you haven't been in the realm of sales in the past, or you haven't sold stuff in the past, this is more of a difficult concept to wrap your head around. Now, if you're someone that's been in sales a long time, I remember kind of my early days when we were selling big rig motorhomes, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 motorhomes. And a lot of it was projecting the story of what life was going to be like when they got on the road full time, right? Oh my gosh, can you imagine what it's going to be like when you can pull up to Lake Mead or whatever and park that thing out there for a few days and go and, do whatever the heck you want and it's yours and blah, 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 right? The sunrise, this, that, painting this picture of something that didn't even exist yet. They're just getting in the mindset of buying a motorhome, but we were yet painting this picture of what it might look like, right? For some of us, that's very difficult if you've never been in that space or if you've never been trained to kind of talk out into the future, right? Well, with business owners, it's no different, right? You have to be able to have a compelling enough story for someone to want to work with you. So the way we make so many people successful in this group is just by simply saying, look, I'm not going to make you the greatest salesperson if you're not that. I'm going to let you lead with results in advance. I'm going to have you build out your first lead gen property. It's going to generate leads. It's going to then build confidence. And then you're going to give those leads over to the business owner for free. And that in turn is going to do the heavy lifting for you, because now you don't have to say, oh, how would it be to park that motorhome at Lake Mead and how it's going to be this great, amazing time in your life. And like you basically took them to the lake, you parked them there, and you're like, how do you like it being at this lake? Like, you've actually proven the result that you're talking about, in the future in the other scenario, right? So it's a lot easier as the coach, as the guy that's training you guys to be successful in this business, to just teach you how to get results in advance, because I know the results are doing the heavy lifting for you. It's like I said, the equivalent of you going and putting these people in a motorhome and putting them on a trip without them ever buying it and getting and feeling the result of ownership, right? Much, much, much easier. Now, for some of you guys, you build your first one, you get your first lead gen property up. Maybe you get a client for it right away. Maybe you don't. Everyone's a little bit different, and every scenario is a little bit different. There's variables in every business, as we all know. I get the question all the time of, how do I land a client if I don't have a lead gen property? Well, number one, okay, you got to be asking and be able to tell a story to someone that's compelling enough so they could see the potential future of what you're talking about in vivid pictures. Okay, vivid, like they can feel it, they can smell it, they can touch it, that has to be able to be part of your skill. Okay, if that's not a part of your skill, I would highly recommend role playing that with some other people in the group after I kind of give you the explanation of how I landed this deal yesterday. Okay, in the situation I was in, we have this tree at my house. I don't know if I mentioned this the other day, but I think I wrote it to someone. We had this tree at my house that was kind of overgrown, and it was getting into the gutter of our gutters, of course. And it was then when it rained and it was overflowing, it was causing a big mess. And so I told Tori, I said, let's get someone out here, but let's use this as a chance to get a new client, right? So I said, instead of going to Google, why don't we go over to Thumbtack, exactly like I tell you guys all the time, and let's find someone that's already sold on the skill set that I have. They're already sold on buying leads, right? And let's then, when they get here, then we'll take them through what we call the license to pitch, right? And so that's exactly how it went down. The gentleman that came up, he's a tree care guy, bought him off of Thumbtack. And I actually wasn't involved with the bidding process of it, right? Or the filling it out. So I didn't know he was coming. I just walked out the door and he was there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Tori did what we had talked about. So I'm gonna take it over from here and talk with this guy. So we start chatting it up, and he's like, oh man, this is cool. What do you do? And we start getting into it, right? I'm like, oh, I do lead generation for small businesses. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? What kind of businesses? I'm like, businesses like yours all over the world. We not only do it, but we also train people, entrepreneurs all over the world to do it as well. And he's like, man, he goes, I buy leads. And I go, oh, you do? Duh. I kind of knew that, right? It's like playing with a 4 aces, right? I already kind of know where this is going. So I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you know what? And this is really good information for you guys, because this shows you inside the mind of a business owner that's buying leads from like a Thumbtack. So first and foremost, this guy's entire business is basically coming from him buying leads. If he stops buying leads, this is what he's telling me. If he stops buying leads from Thumbtack and the other sources he's buying them from, he doesn't have the flow of business necessary to keep his guys and his crew busy and make the money that he's accustomed to making. But with anything, just because it's your main source doesn't mean you're not open to other sources, right? Which is why I tell you guys, look, go to the places and go to the business owners that are already sold on the skill set that I've taught you guys, that are already sold on buying leads, right? They're the best buyers, right? Just like they in advertising, they say like, hey, if you want to sell advertising, go look for people that are advertising, right? Go look at who's on the billboard or on television. And those people are already sold on trading their money to advertise. There's a lot of business owners that aren't sold on it, or they don't have the guts for it, right? And those ones, you end up trying to be in this game of convincing them that they need to change the patterns that they've had throughout their business career, and they need to start advertising. Some of them you'll never convince because they've been able to run a successful business through word of mouth. They just maybe grew way slower, right? And there's others like this gentleman, and knowing that we found him from a place where he had to buy me basically as a lead, I'm doing a few different things. Number one, I got a perfect person to pitch to. Number two, when I hire him, I'm proving to him that when he buys a lead from Thumbtack, that it exchanges money into his pocket. So I ask him the question, hey man, so like how much does Thumbtack charge you for like a lead? So this is interesting information, and every market's a little bit different, but he said, you know what? He's like, I've got really frustrated with Thumbtack. I've heard this a million times too. HomeAdvisor, I'm really frustrated with it. They're always frustrated. I'm frustrated with Facebook or AdWords half the time because yeah, they're charging a lot of money. They got a good business model. They have all the traffic, right? And they're able to decide how much they sell that traffic or that lead for, right? So he goes, so check this out. He goes, dude, when I first started with Thumbtack, it was $3 a lead. He goes, now it's $37 a lead for he's like, so basically in order to get you as a client, I spent $37 just for your information, just to come bid you. And he goes, the crazy thing, and I know all this stuff, obviously, and you guys hopefully know this stuff as well. He's like, the crazy thing is generally they sell the lead to 5 other businesses. So, right. So I'm trying to show you guys how valuable what you guys have been taught how to do actually is, and how other companies are monetizing it at incredible numbers. So let's just quickly run the math on that. If they sell that one lead, for 37, 5 times, that one lead was worth $185, right? To Thumbtack, right? Now, he's not happy about it, right? And so he tells me, he goes, yeah, so I'm looking at other services right now. I'm like, ding, 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 ding.